Lately I've been thinking about this life and how it brought me here. Staring at this man in the mirror, I see him often. He'll wipe my tears. Only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes. Certain things don't like to talk about, but I'll always remember. The chaos in my mind turned my heart out in November. I'm surrounded by too many doors, not sure which way I entered. But I'm rocking with my lovers, let you know that front and center.
Welcome to the Message is Hope podcast, where the hope stands for hearing other people's experience. My name is Adam.
My name is Mike, and today on the podcast we have somebody who I look up to in the program that I participate in, and is always giving me game, man, when it comes to like working this program, and I appreciate you coming on. Frankie, how you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing good. Let's start out. You guys talked about the childhood, right?
Yeah.
And I want to get right into that because that's really important of where it started and the journey it took me to get to where I'm at today. Right. And one thing for sure is like, I'm the baby of 6, right? And my parents separated like I was 8 years old, but my sisters raised me, 3 sisters. And it's crazy how I got involved with knowing what a party lifestyle creates. As a young kid, 9, 10 years old. I remember my sisters, I had a cousin that was a DJ back in the days, the backyard parties, and we had a swimming pool. And I used to always wait, like every other weekend, like when are they going to have the party, right? And because I was already subject to the results of partying. Not the effects, the personal, physical, and mental effects, but the results of, I always found, like after the party, my cousin would come, they'd set up, people would be running around, swimming in the pool, girls in bikinis, whatever. As a young kid, like that wasn't enticing, right? And I remember every morning there would be people passed out, and I would always find money, cigarettes. I didn't even notice, I didn't even understand, like, I'd take the cigarettes to my friends down the street, and we'd try to smoke them or whatever. But it was always the results of the party that I looked for. So there was already a spark of something's going to happen, and it's going to benefit me. Because with the money I'd find $10, $5, $2, whatever. And I would or find somebody's wallet, and I go through. I would take, whatever. So at a young age, I was already knowing the results of the party that I was going to have some kind of come up. There was something that was going to happen, and I'd go to the liquor store, and I'd buy the Now or Laters or the Jolly Ranchers, you know what I mean, and go share them with my friend and show off that I had money. So there was an identity thing going on of me being elevated as someone that would have money at 8, 9, 10 years old. I remember my sister was like 16, maybe a little older, 19, 20, and she married an older gentleman, like 15 years her senior. And I remember him coming with the tattoos, a slingshot, bell-bottom pants, in the 70s, that's what they wore. And 70s, early 80s, big old mustache. And so I was like, man, he's tough. 'Cause now that I reflect back on it, they talk about the misinformed, you know what I mean? And I didn't have a clue that that's what it was, but I was attracted, right? And, he would come periodically. He was seeing my sister. It wasn't for a while that they got married, but I remember as a young kid, my sisters always babied me, and it affected me throughout my life because I always expected somebody to take care of me. You know what I mean? I've always expected that. One of my brothers was doing like 18 years in prison. My oldest brother was married and away from the home. Like I said, my mom and dad had separated. And this is crazy. It's like 10, 11 years old. My dad had moved to Oakeyville. They called it Oakeyville right here in Loma Linda. And he was a construction worker. And it's crazy because I would go to his house on the weekend. And I don't know if I ever shared this before in front of you guys or with you guys, that my mom lived in the neighborhood, but my mom she was always absent because after being married 27 years, she bounced. Like, she would go out every weekend. The men thing was going on, different dudes would show up with her, whatever. And I remember my dad lived in Okieville, work construction. So when I would go over there, my cousins were all into OPs, Vans with no socks. I don't know if anybody remember that. So I had a whole different set of clothes. And we talk about the chameleon, right? And how we can adapt to any situation, anywhere we need to go, and fit into any crowd. You know what I mean? And that's acting. Like I learned that not even knowing that I was learning how to act. I was just trying to fit in and be an acceptance. And I remember when I would go back to my mom's house, I had the khakis, the wife beaters, you know what I mean? The gangster stuff to fit in at home.
Yeah.
Right? But when I would go to my dad's, he wasn't having that, and nobody was dressing like that. So it was always a struggle of who I really am. What is my identity, right? I listened to rock over there and oldies over here. Confused as a young kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think I already had smoked a little weed and, stole a little alcohol here and there. But it was the acceptance that was more elevating. Like, that was a drug in itself. Just having friends, because of the early childhood separation with my father, there was no really any figure of a man in the house except my brother-in-law. And eventually, him and my sister got married, and I'm gonna touch on my brother-in-law because towards 16, 17, 18, they raised me. So when he moved into my mom's house, that's where I didn't know what was going on, but there was a lot of activity.
Right.
So there was drug sales going on. And that went on, 70s, 80s until 1994. But I'll stick to early on. Like, it was normal for the police coming, for the ambulance coming, somebody ODing, guns being passed around, people having meetings at my house, people getting out of prison, posting up. So that in itself was an attraction. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna simplify. Explain to. It's crazy. Like I said, I had 3 sisters that raised me. Right. My oldest sister, she moved to the very next block with her husband. She got married, and he worked for the city, and as a trash man. And every night, bro, at 5 o'clock, they would have dinner. At 8:30, my nieces and nephews had to be asleep. This is going on in the very next block. So my mom, when she'd come in and out of the house, she would say, "Go to your sister's," because she knew that there was food was made. And about 8:30, lights were out. You know what I mean? People were winding down, the kids were winding down, and she thought that was going to rub off on me. But my mind, not knowingly, I was attracted to the other block. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because there was no supervision, no rules. And then, my brother-in-law was selling drugs, so he would always like, "Oh, yeah, here's some money." You know what I mean? So I would go to the Flipper Flapper arcade at the Inland Center. I would run around the streets on my bike. It didn't matter what time I came home. So I was always in a constant conflict, but I was always attracted to the wrong block. Yeah. For years, bro, until I remember I was like 15 and a half, almost about to be 16. And at this time, I'm still going to my dad's, but less. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going as often because of by choice. Now I'm getting older. Now I'm able, I'm already... mess with the weed, and I remember 15, 16, they started giving me the bag of balloons because they were go busy. I already knew they would tell me these, so many for 1 for 12 and 4 for 8. Well, they told me the price range and what it was. They had so much stuff, so I would steal a couple or keep money. And I remember like I still can remember like. How I got introduced, right? The neighbor came over. He was always begging, always selling something, always wanting to cut the grass. Everybody knew him. He lived around the corner, him and his brother. And he's like, "Where's so-and-so? Where's this?" He was asking for my brother-in-law or his brother. And I said, "They're not here." And he's like, "Oh, well, give me one." And like I said, curiosity. You know what I mean? Curiosity, wondering, already attracted to the lifestyle, already attracted to what's going on. And I said, let me try one. Let me try it, and I'll give you one. And he's like, oh, no, they'll kill me. They'll murder, you know. And he left. It took him 3 minutes, bro, to come back. And, you know the old saying, you can't tell nobody.
How old were you then?
I was about 15, 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and it's crazy. He said, you can't tell nobody. And I knew where the syringes were. I knew where everything was, right? Mm-hmm. And we go out in the backyard. We go to the shed, and he's hooking it up. And I remember just getting sick. You know what I mean? I remember getting sick. And
this was heroin, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that was my first, like, I already had dabbled in, like, a little bit of weed, maybe a couple lines here and there. But it wasn't that popular back then in the late 70s. While at home, it wasn't popular. I don't know where anywhere else because I was at home. Yeah. And that's where my first introduction was to the lifestyle, to the drugs. Anyways, what I would start doing is I would start stealing, like, a balloon here, a balloon there, because they had so much. It wasn't like everything had to be accounted for. You know what I mean? They were the connection. And I would steal a one or two and then go to his house. And I remember he got incarcerated, so I was running around trying to figure out. So we watch enough movies. I watch enough movies. I'll start thinking I'm Bruce Lee, right? And I watched him do it enough times to me, and I'm like, I could do it. You know what I mean? Because I knew where everything was. So I started injecting myself, and from there was off and running. Yeah. You know, and I remember about 17, I already had messed up the school. Where I was going to school at my mom's house. I already had got kicked out, expelled, not going to school, hanging out, doing stupid stuff. But I'm strung out at this time already. You know what I mean? And I remember my dad moved to San Bernardino, and the same identity, the same clothes was changed. And it was something like my dad had, like, he was my first sponsor. But at the time, I was so blinded to see the healthy direction. You know what I mean? I was so blinded to it. And I would still go to his house in San Bernardino. Finally, it just came to the end of the road where you have to go to school in San Bernardino. You have to move in with your dad because a lot of stuff started changing at home. More drug. People are going to prison. More drug raids. So I ended up moving in with my dad. And but I was still going back to the neighborhood. And I would go back and pick up. And then that's when meth came out, and meth became popular. And I had a friend of mine tell me, hey, you could sell this at school, right? Bright ideas. He's like, you can sell this at school and come up, and you can have money for yourself and just bring me this amount of money. So, I mean, he bagged up some stuff for me. And at this time, I was going to San Bernardino High School. And those were the enemies where I'm from. And I remember hanging out with just the girls and a couple of punk rockers. And they did meth. So they were all my friends, right? Acceptance again. Mm-hmm. You know, but this time I knew the power of the dope, what it did, you know what I mean? I had power over them. So I would use them for rides, the chicks, because they were a little bit, they all had like little cars, and they would they would take me back to my neighborhood, and I'd say, hold on. And I'd go in and be able to do heroin somewhere, right? Because I didn't know where to get heroin in San Bernardino until I broadened my horizons, right? I started figuring out, oh, yeah, I know, I can recognize now. Yeah. But it's crazy because I had never knew about withdrawal. 16 and a half, 17 years old, I never knew about withdrawal. And I remember somebody told on me at school, right? And there's another friend of mine from the 12-step program that I do go to. He remembers, he goes, they pulled you out of wood shop. And I'm like, he's like, they pulled me out of wood shop and they searched me. They couldn't find it. But somebody told them where I had it. They took me back. I ended up in juvenile hall. Like I said, I was living with my dad at this time already. And he was a old-time construction worker, by the book, no cutting corners, in at, and I remember him, they calling him from the police station, and they had him like on the speaker. It wasn't a speakerphone. It was probably a speakerphone back then. And he says, I ain't going to get him. Do whatever you want. And that was I didn't know any rejection prior to that of what I experienced with my parents separating. I had feelings of rejection back then because I had 3 sisters. They all, and I was accepted by everybody because I would be able to be a chameleon. And that, because it was poor me, right? He says, oh, leave them there. And that's when I was introduced to real rejection. But by my own doing and not being adult enough to understand. You know what I mean? It was always poor me, Anyways, I ended up going to juvenile hall for a while, and he broke it down after a few weeks, because he was like, nope, let him go, whatever, they gave me a public public defender, and they were like, well, your dad don't want you out. Finally he started coming to visit me, bringing comic books and bringing me snacks, and he's like, what is going on, and what's this stuff, because he don't believe in drugs, and even though at that time he wouldn't come to my sister's, he would park outside to pick me up or something, and he goes, I never understood. Years later, he says, I never understood what you guys were doing. I would hear, but I didn't want to believe it, and there's the denial, and that's a tree that's a created tree from our parents or from people close to us. I mean, oh, it's not that bad, or you're not doing that bad. And he says, well, I didn't think you would, But juvenile hall, and then I just went right back to it. You know what I mean? I went right back to the same lifestyle, same environment, and it just escalated. I mean, it just escalated. Where did I go from there?
At this point, were you like gangbanging? Because you said you had enemies at San Bernardino High School, which is the high school I went to.
Yeah.
So were you like gangbanging? Were you like super involved in the neighborhood? Is that why you were selling the dope? Stuff like that?
Excuse me. That started 15, 16. Well, we can back it all the way up to kindergarten where the neighbor from the elementary, he would, everybody would pass by his house, and he'd be out there with the white T-shirt and the Levi's crease. And he'd like, come over here, what are you guys doing? And eventually we all got involved. And it was, now that you bring that up, I remember going to neighborhood meetings, and if you couldn't have $5 on Sunday, you'd get your ass kicked. Like every Sunday you had to come in and check in with $5, to buy T-shirts, to put that old English lettering on our shirts.
Yeah.
Gangbanging didn't take full effect until about 17, 18, 19. Because I think the drugs were more the focus, and I had moved out of town. But when I went back home, and like I said, it started escalating, and more drug use. So the gangbanging started about 17, 18, and 19, more active in the gangs. But it was kind of weird because everybody was doing meth or smoking sherm, and I was doing heroin. So I still felt, and the gangbanging only enabled my identity again, my acceptance. Like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to go over there and shoot up this and do that. And that was just out of acceptance and fear-driven because I just didn't want them to lose them as friends. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? As homies or whatever. And but I always was able to go back to my dad's. You know what I mean? And it was kind of like, it was, now that I reflect back on it, it was partially a relief, but it was probably like a safe haven.
Yeah.
And I remember my older homeboys getting out of prison. Like I said, I was already attracted to that. And one of them in particular, he got out, and I was, at this time, towards the end of the road of being at my sister's house, and then the house keep getting raided, people going to prison. But it was so crazy that they always had someone there selling what was on deck. So they started selling meth, they started selling coke, they started selling crack, along with heroin and weed, whatever was on the market, they didn't have a problem selling it. My brother-in-law, his family, his brothers, like somebody was always posted at the house. And it went, and the more attraction that I got was the money. You know what I mean? He had Harley Davidsons, everything that came with it. But one of my homeboys in particular, he got out. He passed away now in prison. He got out, And he says, you're stealing them cars. And I was just stealing cars just to joyride. And it's weird because a little homeboy of mine taught me how to steal cars. I didn't, at this time, I'm already a full-blown hype, trying to gangbang in between shots, You know what I mean? Well, I would be like, if we gangbang, are we going to get some money so I can buy some dope? They were trying to put a name on their, on the streets. But my homeboy that had just got out, he's like, you're stealing cars? And I'm like, yeah. And I just get him to drive around, and I didn't know, like, steal the stereo. That's how narrow-minded I was. I had a whole car to sell, but I was still a stereo, right? I'm still a car to sell stereo. Mm-hmm. And he says, I'm going to show you something. Come here tomorrow, and I'll get you well. So I'm like, all right. I was there knocking on his door, early in the morning, like, where are you at? You said you're going to show me something. Mm-hmm. And he said, come in. We got loaded. And he said, come on. And that's he introduced me to doing burglaries. And that was a whole nother addiction. You know what I mean? And a form of I can do whatever I want. And I share this once in a while. Like now that I'm in a 12-step program, and I don't want to jump around too much, is we talk about freedom and having freedom from self and freedom from other things. But I always thought freedom meant I can do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. That's lawlessness. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's, disregard for everything. Because if I do whatever I want, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because, like, you guys heard me share before, I don't need the drugs to be retarded. Yeah. And I've learned that by staying in a 12-step process. But back to the game banging and my first introduction to prison, I remember doing the car thing and stealing cars and going to do burglaries and stuff. And
what kind of burglaries? Like fucking breaking into people's houses, or?
Yes.
Okay.
The short answer is yes.
All right.
Because I don't want to give the wrong impression of how to do it. Nowadays, it's like so many cameras and stuff.
I know. I was just thinking about that last night because somebody was like, "Oh, I want to get you a housewarming gift. Like, I'm gonna buy you cameras, right?" And then they were telling me like how they have a camera in their hallway, right? And I'm thinking to myself like, it blows my mind, bro, that like cameras like all through your house is like a normal thing now, right? I don't think I want to put cameras in my house. I think I want to put a camera like in my living room, so when I'm at work, I could look at my kids. You know what I'm saying? But like the hallways and everything, I don't know. It's weird.
It's crazy. You can't get away with anything anymore.
No, you can't. Absolutely not, bro. Especially, anyways, we're not going to get into the government and face masks. That's a whole nother podcast that we'll be starting up. But no.
Conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories 101. Yeah. But anyways. But yeah, like cameras are I was just thinking about that last night. I was sitting in a meeting that we went to last night. And I was just like, when she offered me that, and she was talking about the cameras, in our hallway, and I just thought to myself, it's so weird, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, there wasn't no cameras when I was growing up and stuff like that. So yeah, so go ahead and
my first introduction was like I said, I have 3 older sisters, and 2 of my sisters were involved with the lifestyle for years, and they never used. They never used. It was so now that I take an inventory and inventory on what they provided for me at the time. Like it was codependency. Because I remember at first I got like I had left. I had went to YA, and then I ended up in a camp, and I left that, so I got an escape charge, right? And I remember. This is how enabling my sisters were.
So an escape charge, like you bounced?
Yeah, from a facility. Right. And I ended up in the bottom of Banny, where I don't know if you guys remember those big old dinosaurs, that were down there, Banny, Beaumont, whatever, or Cabazon. Yeah. And I remember I made it down that mountain. If you go the wrong way, you die. I was at this boy's ranch, and I took all my Levi's and all, so I'm going to look Bonnaroo when I get to the neighborhood, right? And back then with payphones, and my sisters came to get me like that. And as soon as we got home, my sister said, everything's outside in the garage over here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, all right. And she didn't use. So it was provided already. Like it was almost natural for us to use growing up for years. And I remember going back into the whole lifestyle. I picked up leaving that boys ranch, I had a warrant, I had a absconding warrant, but I was about to turn 18. It was like months before I was going to turn 18. I remember the gangbanging thing, right? And trying to fit in and trying to be accepted. And this is how dumb I am. These guys say, "Hey, so and so's having problems in Grand Terrace, or let's go see what's up." And we're like, "All right, we go." Right? There ain't nothing happening, bro. We're getting high. But I guess this car went by, and they seen everybody out there, and they called the cops on us, right? And the sheriffs are coming. We all run aside, and I got a warrant, right? And we're all kind of young. There might be a couple older cats. And I remember running into a room, and I lay down to go under the bed, and the whole wall is full of guns. So the cops, I don't know if they needed it. I didn't know nothing about search warrants or nothing, but they came, and I could hear them all over, like snatching everybody up. And I remember, I'm cool, And the last bedroom, bro, I don't know if it was a master bedroom or whoever's room. And I remember the cop said, "Get your ass out of there." And he drugged me out. And at that time, bro, and you guys might not believe it, I had long hair, bro. Yeah. I had long ass hair, yeah. And the girls liked it, right? Yeah. And I remember I was already 18, so they couldn't take me back. They couldn't process me through juvenile hall, even though I had a juvenile hall warrant. They took me to county jail, and that was my first introduction to being a cow. I was scared, right? And then all the stories, but I wasn't scared enough of the stories because, like I said, I grew up in that lifestyle. Like I looked up to dudes getting out, going, the package thing and everything. That I knew the lifestyle, and I knew that they were always okay, so I was gonna be okay.
Yeah,
I was.
When you got there, did you have like a sense of like accomplishment, like I made it?
Yeah.
Did you? Sick, huh?
Yeah. And it and as soon as I got there, you get processed late at night, and I remember prior to that, I had you might not. It was a gentleman from San Bernardino that we ended up working for somebody that was really well known in the prison community and part of something bigger than himself. And I remember us working for him and collecting money and stuff. And he was there, right? I hadn't seen him. He was from San Bernardino, and we did a lot of stuff prior to us going. He already had been to jail a couple times. He was a couple years older. And I remember he's like, "What's up, fool?" And he gave me a hug, and he's like, "Don't worry." He made somebody move. I got a bunk and everything. Got some dope. Like hours later, in the morning before chow, and I felt comfortable. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because there's the acceptance thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I'm accepted, I'm protected, and I got ran down what was gonna happen, what's going on, and I stayed there for a couple months fighting the case because I had a 3-year YA what do you call it? Joint suspension over my head. But like I said, I ran for a while, and I ended up going back. I ended up in the county jail, so I started going to juvenile hall court from the county jail. And I remember they gave me 6 months, 9 months in Glen Helen Rehabilitation Center, and I got there, and the same thing. You know what I mean? There was older cats there that knew my family, and so I was welcomed with open arms. And the first thing that was mentioned is, "We got a pipeline." And I'm like, "Oh, really? My sister will be here next week. Let me call her." You know what I mean? I need a visit. And I have a sister that always enabled that part of my life. And, now that I've done an inventory on that personal relationship, like, it was a controlling mechanism combined with the codependency. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? She can control me, and she can get my love through drugs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it went on for years. Like, finally, when I started getting clean, she's like, "Are you doing your?" She always mocked the program in some form or another because she was losing control. Mm. You know what I mean? She was losing control, and she wasn't gonna have her little brother. But county jail, and then I remember the first time I went to prison. I picked up a GTA. I got 2, 4, and 6. And again, the acceptance things. All I was doing, we got a stolen truck, and I was doing the burglary thing and all that at this time. But the little chicks, right? So I'm with my little homies, and we get a couple of cars, and we're racing out with some chicks in the car, racing out to Huntington Beach, and get pulled over. I get some time, I pick up a GTA, and then I pick up another one. I get out on that one, and I end up going to prison. My first term was 4 years. And I remember going to prison, and like I said, like I already had looked up to the lifestyle. And then somebody I went to school with, when I told you I lived in Loma Linda, he got informed. He lived the same background, same lifestyle, just in a different neighborhood. And he told me, we have to do something to fit in here, right? And the acceptance and all that. And I was convinced that he knew what he was talking about, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was misinformed. So we're in prison, in Chino Central, where that's headquarters for Southern California prison system. And he tells me when we walk out of the cell in the morning, we got to rush another race. And I'm like, okay. I thought he knew what he was talking about, bro. We're 2 little kids, bro. And we do our thing. We end up in Palm Hall, and like I shared earlier, like there's a power greater than ourselves in the prison system, and we almost got in trouble. Like we almost got into a big wreck, but a couple of guys just started laughing. Like, well, we thought, and that's been a problem most of my life, and still can become a part of my problem today. Is I thought, and a friend of mine would always tell me, don't believe everything you think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the prison, it's crazy because when I ended up going to like, Chino is one of the most violent, and it's crazy because for years I felt comfortable going there. Like I couldn't wait to go there from the county jail for 24 years. Like, once I started my prison journey, like it was so attractive. It was so normal to live like that and to be okay with it because I didn't know any better. And back to that kid finding $10 on the floor, I was already misinformed, by the lifestyle. So it just escalated through the years. It just continuously escalated, and I became more attracted to it. And not being that narrow-minded, that was the only way life was to be lived. And being blinded that I had a hard-working father, and I can touch on that. Like, I remember being at his house. He was a single man, so I had 2 or 3 women a week take me to school, make me breakfast, take me to school. It was normal. So that was a whole nother can of worms that I got to experience. And I had an outlook towards women in a certain way, but the prison journey, like it lasted for years. And I remember being in Corcoran, 10 years in Corcoran. And I remember like it would be so violent or so wanting to be so much involved that things would change. People would start taking over the yard, and it would be like the lottery. You don't know who's going to get stabbed next. And there was so much dope, and people were like tweaking, running around with knives. And I reflect back on it, like how can I have been so attracted to something so dumb? You know what I mean? For years. Like I felt just okay. I didn't know nothing about gratitude. I didn't know nothing about humility. I didn't know nothing about loving the next person next to you or having consideration. Animalistic level. It was a whole lifestyle for years. And I remember being and I'll touch on this real quick because of the results of addiction. I remember being locked because over there you're caged in the shower. Like, when you go to the shower, you come out you and your cellie, go to the shower. And I remember being locked in the shower, the San Bernardino area, Inland Empire area was really had a real heavy presence at that prison at that time. So there was a lot of drugs coming, and it was not a problem to get strung out. And I remember being locked in the shower with my Sally, and this is how powerful the disease of addiction is. They come by with a syringe full of heroin and cocaine, and they said, "You guys want this, but they want the syringe back." And I'm like, yeah, we want it. What are you talking about? Like, don't trip. And I think this is might have been the way I contracted hepatitis C. So I told myself, you can go first, right? So no water, no cleaning, no nothing, because they wanted it back. Like, you're not leaving. It's not leaving this cage empty. It's not leaving with anything in it, right? It's not going to leave with anything in it. So I hit him and I hit myself, and not having a second thought about that, you know? And years later, like I was scared to get an AIDS test because of the lifestyle. And another member had told me, like, I should be more worried because I've been out here a lot longer having unprotected sex. I said, bro, I was shooting dope with whatever, any humankind. You know, anything that would give me a little taste or something. But so I think that's where I contracted. And what I touch on that for is because I wasn't mindful of my well-being in any shape or form. And I clown about it sometimes, like, often, like, the only thing you got to do in prison is stay alive. You know what I mean? Back then, I don't know how it is now. I heard a lot of things change. And today I don't have to find out if they changed or not. You know what I mean? Because of a 12-step program.
So where was it? What was it like towards the end of the road? Like, before you got clean, what was like a situation that kind of made you willing to do something different from what you've known this whole time?
And you also had a few attempts at getting clean, right? You had a few stints of maybe not recovery, but abstinence.
I've had one.
Okay.
But at the end of my road, it wasn't like I remember going to the hole and doing something where I was like, there was a lot of power shifting going on, and I was by myself for like, I don't know, 6, 7 days, and something just dawned on me, like what am I doing? And it's crazy that my neighbor, like, he had fucked up, like he had did something wrong, and they were after him, and you know, and I've learned through the years, like, I don't walk in his shoes. You know what I mean? And he started telling me about religious stuff, about treatment, about help, how he knew somebody outside that it helped him, right? He didn't mention no specifics, but he said, man, I can't do this no more, I can't do this. And it stuck with me because his sincerity. Like, he was serious, bro. And I would never see him, I would see him eye to eye, you know, like when he'd come out to shower, like he'd come by the shower, like, you cool, and he'd shoot me a cigarette or something. But his sincerity, like, it just, for some reason, it stayed with me, you know? And I remember getting out from that and going right back. I mean, I got out from doing that time. I got out Christmas Eve, and I went right back on New Year's Eve from doing all that time without, you know, engaging in any kind of sexual relationship with the chick or anybody for that matter. But I went straight back to the streets with my little homies. And they're doing this new thing, the meth and all that stuff, and they're like full-blown gangbanging. People are dying. People catching death penalty sentences. The ones I was kicking it with caught. The only reason why I missed that was because I got a violation coming out of a house where, like I said, a power grader and myself, one of my homeboys was out. We were chilling. We kicked it for a week, and the gang squad, prison gang squad was keeping an eye. I mean, when they got me, they said, "Where is he at? We know that you went to this store. You guys were here. You guys went to, back then it was Sears. You guys, so they were watching him, the FBI, everybody." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And it's crazy because these were the SSU task force from prison monitoring prisoners, monitoring parolees. And from them, my parole officer walked through them and says, "I'm going to violate you." I had 8 1/2/16 of speed, bro, because I didn't want to get caught with the dope, right? Like I said, I went right back. I did a 4-month violation, and that's when my little homies came in. Like, they had killed the witness. They killed like 3 people, and my nephews were involved. And I remember still not having enough open-mindedness to see, like, this is not that there's something wrong with it. I could not see that. As time went on, I remember I did a 4-month violation, got out, same thing. And I remember, like, it's weird because every time I would have like a little moment of clarity, that dude next to me, something, bro. It was like a seed planted. Like, I wonder what that dude was talking about. Anyways, fast forward a little bit. I remember I got off of parole, but I was still using, right? And I said, well, I'm gonna do it better, right? I had a bright idea. I'm gonna do it better. I'm not gonna do no crimes, but I'm gonna get someone that can work. And that worked for a while. I was with somebody that worked for Stater Brothers, like 30 years plus now. And there I go again with someone taking care of me.
Right.
And she took care of me. She made sure I had $40 a day. So the enabling, the same things some of my sisters provided for me, the same things she was providing. So and I got to drive her car. So that was a plus, right? I thought I was doing really good. I was like, man, I'm good. But it's weird because like you talked about, I had an introduction to a 12-step program. And I remember I got caught for like a little possession or something. And they offered me treatment, a form of treatment. I'm like, okay, yeah, And with her encouragement, and it wasn't nobody else. It was just with her encouragement because, right, she had the purse.
Yeah.
So I was attracted to that, maybe a little bit to her. Still delusional of what was right and wrong, right? Like, I didn't understand. Still was living an animalistic way of living, but anyways, I got that program, and I remember somebody bought me a 12-step book, right? And they put all these numbers in there, all these phone numbers to contact people if I needed help or I needed a vent or if I needed a ride to a meeting. And I remember getting that book, and I remember I white-knuckled it for a while, right? I had that book, and I remember going to... I had the book. I would carry around like it was a strap, bro. Like it was a protector of some sort, right? And I remember going to the casino with my mom and dad, chain smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee from the casino, waiting for my mom and dad, and I had the book there, right? I just had the book. That's weird. I went to a Laughlin convention, a Laughlin Super Bowl party. My mom would have all these free rooms and stuff. We went out there, and I had the book. I'm with that same chick. I had the book. Didn't use. But I was just white-knuckling it. I ended up getting through a program, and like you touched on me being introduced. I remember, I don't know if anybody's experienced this out there or anything, but I remember I was in treatment. It was an outpatient treatment. I would have to go 3 days a week and test and all that. But there was this one dude that stayed loaded in the program. And I'm like, bro, how do you do it? I got cancer. I wanted cancer. I was like, bro, can you give me a little bit of cancer? Because I want to stay. He would be loaded every group all over. They would skip him on the test line. And I'm like, fuck, And I remember all it took was like I graduated that treatment program. I don't know, it was like 90 days, 6 months, 9 months. I remember graduating it, and like I already had been introduced to the 12-step program, and I remember I graduated, and my mom was there. She made enchiladas. The chick that I was with at the time brought a cake. The counselors, I'm taking pictures with the certificate. My group members, that fool's loaded. And we went out to smoke a cigarette out of the facility, and he looked over at me, and he's like, bro, I got $3,800. Can you pick up for me? I don't have no more. And I'm like, I've never even seen $3,800 cash, bro. He had it in his pocket, bro. I'm like, you for reals? You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah. So I went back in the facility. I started grabbing all the pans, everything, put them in the car. And my mom's like, what's wrong? I go, we got to go, Mom. And the girl already seen the characteristics. And she said, you're going to go to jail. And I said, yeah, but not right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I just got to get on the other side of the freeway. I don't know. I did like a sanction or whatever, like a 3-month sanction or something. It wasn't that long. It was like 30 days. And like I said, I already had an introduction. And prior to that, like a couple years prior to that, my sister was in the program. And it's so crazy because the sponsor I got after I got out of that sanction, she tried to introduce me to him. She tried to tell me, you got to meet this guy. And I think she probably just liked him or whatever. You got to meet this guy. He's helping all these people. He's sharing, you know, he's really good. He has a bomb-ass career. He's a nurse. And I'm like, and I remember sitting in the car and she's telling me this stuff. And I'm like, well, where is he at? You think he'll lend me $20? You know what I mean? Distorted thinking. Anyways, a few months later, whatever it was, a year later, I remember doing that sanction. And I remember, like, I had the introduction. And I remember being in the cell, bro. I had took 6 dimes and a little syringe, right? Because the acceptance part is like, I'm going to go with something, you know? They're going to like me. You know what I mean? I still struggled with that. And I remember running out and the despair, loneliness, the degradation set back in. But I was so one-sided, you know what I mean? My thinking was always one-sided, poor me. And I remember thinking like the introduction already had begun, and then I started hearing that dude's voice, and he talked about hope, and he talked about a message. You know what I mean? And I couldn't put 2 and 2 together, but I had been to enough meetings during that 6 months and carrying that book around that I heard something about that. And I remember sitting there thinking, the food's coming. I didn't have nothing else. I had 2 soups and maybe a couple shots of coffee. And that hope came back. And all I was hoping for was an extra cookie on my tray, an extra scoop of spinach. I was hoping my Sally wouldn't eat his food. Anything, you know, an addict would always want to, at least my experience, I always want to come up on something. And it's still relevant today. Yeah. Anyways, the food came, and I got up to get my tray, and we talk about spiritual awakenings. And I've had many and daily that I overlook, but this one is in particular. Like I know, like if it happened earlier today or yesterday, that spiritual awakening happened. I got up to get my tray, and it's like, I'm not gonna say like my life had flashed before me, but the circumstances and situation that I was in was my own. I always blamed the party, the dad leaving, the sisters enabling. I always had an out. You know what I mean? I had a loophole to continue living the way that I was living and not knowing, blinded. And I remember getting the tray and like, you know, like I said, I've always had hope. I hope the dope man would hurry up. I hope anything, but all I hoped that particular day was for extra food, and it didn't happen. But the situations, circumstances that I was in were my own. I got out, and it's crazy. I got done doing that, and I made the decision to stop using drugs incarcerated. I mean, because there's pills, there's access to something. And I just made the decision, like, maybe, just maybe, that last 6 months, maybe there's something in that book. The stuff in that's contained in that book will never be any part of me if I don't open the book. It's like anything. You know what I mean? So I got out from that sanction and I started going to meetings, and I remembered that guy's name, and I asked him to sponsor me, and I had like 18 months clean, and he looked over at me, and I'm living with the same girl, right? He looked over at me. I have all brand new clothes on, driving her car. We go to a lot of meetings, and he says, "You ever thought about getting a job or going to school?" And I'm like, "For what? I'm doing good, bro. This bride has a badass job. What do I need one for?" Because I was delusional. I thought having a brand new pair of shoes and an EBT card was sufficient. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's it. And he says, "No, the 12-step program is designed to make boys into men." And I was misinformed, bro. I thought being a man was going to them prisons, living on that street, running with them people, impressing this person, doing that for that person. And what I've learned since I've gotten clean and I've stayed clean is that grown men do not sleep on couches. I mean, they just don't. And through that process and through that gentleman walking me through the 12 steps, I've learned about manhood, because in the rooms, I've learned that men pay their bills, take care of their children, and most importantly, carry a message of hope that someone else can recover too. That is so important. Today, I took his suggestion. I went to school, and it's crazy. Real quick, I'll touch on this. He encouraged me to get my driver's license, and encouraged me to go. He helped me get enrolled in college. And we're in a meeting, and this gentleman walked in, and he asked, "Does anybody have a clean driving record?" And he says, "This dude does." Because I never had a driver's license. Where I was going, there wasn't much driving, bro, to the corner or to the fucking cell. There was no where for me to fuck up my driving record. So I got a job with this dude. I was going to college, and I ended up taking up a career. I went to school. They sent me to school. And today, a drug addict, a dope fiend, a gutter hype, a gang member, is managing a well-known automotive brand. You know what I mean? And that's monumental miracles. And it wasn't done alone. I cannot leave that unsaid. I mean, I have to stay in a humble posture on a daily basis, because, the acceptance, the ego, the pride will always detour the healthiness of our spirituality. Anyways, that's all I got.
And so what is your clean date?
2/12/11.
2/12/11. So 2/12/11. So you had like a year and a half when I got clean?
Yes.
And I thought it was like 2-3 years, but it was a year and a half, right? So I remember getting clean, right? And thinking I was this fucking, I share about this all the time, but I always thought I was like this hard, you know what I'm saying, me against the world. I didn't have to gangbang. Like, I believe, bro, in my opinion, like, drugs saved my life long enough for me to have a life, or to get to the rooms and then like have a life, right? Because like my drug use, like growing up, I was like in the streets, hanging out with all the gang members, and then like I got strung out and I got paranoid. I got a little schizophrenic, delusional. Like I think everybody's out to get me. So it like drove me away from everybody, right? But I still like walked around with machetes, throwing knives, like I was ready to kill, like all this stuff, right? And that's not to sound tough. I was fucking insane, bro. Like, I'm surprised that I didn't hurt like people that are really close to me, that I really love, with one of my fucking psychosis, or hurting myself, right? But when I got clean, I needed men like you, bro, right? Because men like you are men that I looked up to my whole life, bro. Right, I looked up to the guys with the tattoos. I looked up to the guys that gangbang. The same guys that you looked up to, right? Like with the big mustaches and you know what I'm saying, the pants over your belly button, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Cortezes, like all that stuff, right? And so that was a generation above you, and then guys like you were a generation above me, or a few generations above me, right? And so like I looked up to guys like you, and so for me, like the identification and early recovery was important to me, right? The identification for me has changed because it's not about like what people say. It's not about the lifestyle they lived. It's more about how people felt, right? Getting loaded, and how people think now, right? But the identification was super important for me, and you were just like always there for me, bro. There's you and another member, bro, right? And you two really fucking had like a huge impact on who I was. And I knew, like, I thought to myself, like, I'm just this little street kid. I'm not a gang member. I'm not hood. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not any of that. I'm just a little street kid, right? That did a lot of street kid shit, who lived the street kid lifestyle, right? But I thought to myself, like, if these dudes, right, could get clean, if these dudes could make changes in their life, like, and for me, bro, it was your shoes. Right? For me, it was the girl that you had. For me, it was the car that you drove. Even back then, it was a little Honda, a little green Honda.
Oh, yeah,
remember that?
Yeah.
Right? But even that, like, for me, that was attractive. Like, if this dude could have a brand new pair of J's on, right? And driving a fucking green Honda, right? With a cute girl or whatever. I don't know who you were with at the time. But, if he could fucking do it, then maybe I can. Right? And I still needed validation. Right, I still do. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I don't look for acceptance. You know, we all, it's something that we're all gonna be struggling with, right? Probably for a very long time, right? But the acceptance that I got from you guys was just different for me, right? Juan talked about on his podcast, right? We had a lot of homies that led us in the wrong direction, right? And he was like, oh, it's not real love. And, you know, I tried to tell him, like, bro, that's the only way they knew how to love us, right? And that's the only way I knew how to love my little homies, the ones that I put a pipe to their belt and taught them how to smoke, or how to tag, or how to fight, or how we conduct and carry ourselves, right? And scheming and all that stuff, right? And so, like, so to get clean, man, like, I needed people, Cliff, who hopefully we're gonna have on the podcast soon. He's the one that taught me, bro, like, we were misinformed by misinformed people. He said the most disservice that we could do to a newcomer is to not be informed properly, bro. And he told me about that book that you were carrying. He said, that's where the answers are. That's where you're going to hear the truth about the program. He said, because everything else is opinions, bro. Everything else is like he said, she said, right? The people will say something cool at a fucking meeting, and everybody thinks it's cool. So next thing you know, they're saying it in the city next. Right, and then they hear it and it's cool, so they're saying in the next city, and then like we have these sayings that people are saying that don't coincide with the literature, bro. Right, they have no part of recovery, right? And I shared this, I don't know if I shared it on a podcast, but like they talked about, like when I got clean, they talked about the disease that was outside the meeting waiting for us, doing push-ups and burpees and sit-ups, and he's getting stronger, and so like in my head, like the disease was like this boogeyman that was out on the streets, out on the corner, out with the homies, like waiting for me, waiting to catch me slipping, bro. Right, and then I open up this book and it talks about how we have a disease that lies in the center of our thinking, and it so all that fucking the disease is outside doing push-ups is bullshit, bro. My disease is right here, right? And he's not doing push-ups. He's patiently waiting for me to slip up, right? He's waiting to see how he could get me today, right? And it doesn't always have to lead to like the using, but just the fucked up thought patterns that I have, bro. Right, the not being able to be in like healthy relationships and be comfortable, right? The self-loathing, the fucking the negative intrusive thoughts, the self-hatred, like that's what gets at me today, bro. Right, and so like for me, if I didn't have like men like you, men like Cliff, and I'm not gonna break the other gentleman's anonymity, right? But I only say Cliff because he's already been brought up on this podcast and he's gonna be on it right soon. But like, if it wasn't for men like you, bro, like, there's no way that I could have stayed clean, bro. Like, it wasn't just about for me and you. It wasn't just about like there were moments where I wanted to get loaded and you were able to talk me down, right? I remember like being at a dance And there was that moment where I felt lonely, right? Because I don't have enough courage to dance. Like I don't feel good enough. I'm not my job shit. Like nothing is going the way I think in my head things should be going, right? And I remember talking to you in a dance, bro. We're having fun, and you still took time to like talk to me, and you said, bro, like sometimes being clean has to be enough. And that fucking changed my life, bro, because like we want the shoes, we want the cars, we want the women, we want and I'm not talking about like women like I just want to fuck it. I'm talking about like we want a partner, right? We want someone that we could like share life with, right? I want my kids in my life. And I think at that time, my baby's mom wasn't even letting me see my kids, right? So this is before I had full custody of them, right? And so like all these things are going on, and you said, sometimes being clean has to be enough. And in that moment, I realized that the gift isn't, the gift is the house, the car, the kids, the relationships, the family. But the gift that stems from is clean. Like to be an addict like us, right? To be like so consumed by a substance, bro. And I think about this, bro, because the substance, bro, comes in a little ass bag, right? Well, mine's did. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it came in a big bag. Most of the time, it came in a real little bag, bro, tied up sometimes in a knot, bro. And it's smaller than a fucking penny, bro. Right? Smaller than a fucking penny. And it controlled everything about me, bro. Like I would have died for that. I would have killed for that. I would have robbed for that. I stole for that. I did all kinds of fucked up things for this little fucking thing. So sometimes like just not picking up and using, bro, is enough. And that's the gift in itself, bro. It talks about it in step 12, bro. It says that just like when we look back, right? Because we talk about spiritual awakenings, and one thing you always say is like sometimes we got to look for the spiritual awakening, right? But it says in the literature, bro, that the spiritual awakening is not getting loaded. Like, who does that, bro? Who shoves needles in their arm? Who uses in prison? Who has 3 overdoses, right? Mm-hmm. Who has, like uses against their will, and when they're in treatment for their kids, they're still getting fucking high, bro. Right? And then, like, we get time, right? 18 months, coming up on 2 years, right? 13 years, right? 11 years of not fucking using, bro. Sometimes, like, that has to be enough for where we're at, bro, because that gives us the freedom to be able to fucking move on with our life, bro. Right? And recovery isn't like this fucking unicorn and rainbows, but there are moments where it's unicorn and rainbows, bro. There are those moments where it's just so fucking beautiful, and I've never experienced the beauty like that I've experienced in recovery, right? But there are bad days. Right? There are bad moments. There are times where I feel like giving up. There are times where I feel like giving in. There are times where I feel like smacking someone or acting out in old behaviors or maybe behaviors that I haven't dealt with yet, right? So you always been that, bro. And I remember one time, because I was still very violent in my head, bro, right? And I still wanted to hurt people because not only was I like addicted to substances, but I was addicted to anger. Right? And anger is a drug, bro. The way it enters my brain, the way I manifest on that anger, the way I express it, right? A lot of it has a lot of the characteristics of drug use, bro, right? And I remember, and I'm going to share this and then I'll kind of shut up. But like I remember I wanted to drag somebody out of a meeting, bro. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember what it was. But back then, bro, I had problems with everybody, bro. Like, if you fucking, like, I remember my sponsor, Willie, bro, he our sponsor, right? He told me early on in my recovery, he was like, bro, he said, if you think that you're going to go through life and nobody's going to disrespect you, you're going to have a hard time. Right? Because in my head, like you should know better than to talk to me like that. You should know better than to make like the way I joke nowadays. I couldn't joke like that in the first year of my recovery, bro. I was too serious, bro. You couldn't call me out of my name whatsoever. It's just what it was, bro. Not because I was tough. It's because I didn't know how to express myself in a proper manner. And people could take aggression and assertiveness and think it's the same, bro. There's a big difference between aggressive communication and assertive communication, right? And assertive communication is what men do, and aggressive communication is what boys do, in my opinion, right? Because that's when I don't know how to express myself. Say, hey, Mike, like when you talk to me this way, I feel this way because of this, right? Like that's how adults are supposed to fucking communicate, right? And I remember I went up to you, bro, and I told you I felt like dragging this person out of a meeting, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, hey, let's go get ice cream. I didn't even have a year clean, bro. And I'm like, Ice cream?
You wanted me to co-sign your...
I used to call people to try to co-sign my shit, bro. I had this rule, bro, where I would call 5 people, and if all 5 people came up with the same fucking idea of what to do, then that's what I would do. Because in my head, I'm still killing people. I'm still doing... I remember there's a time where I wanted to kill a few people, bro, and I literally fucking planned it out in my head, right? And so I told you this, and you were like, okay, let's go get ice cream after the meeting. I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, I was like, all right, whatever. I was like, I ain't got no money. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry, or whatever, right? And so we went into this hood shop in San Bernardino, right? Like, they had to buzz you in. You know where it's at, bro. Fucking, it? Is that 31 flavors or Baskin Robbins? 31 flavors. Highland and Waterman are close to Waterman, right? And they gotta buzz you in just to get in. That's how fucking, you know what I'm saying, hood this fucking ice cream place is, right? So we go into this ice cream place, bro, and I don't have money for a scoop, right? A scoop was probably like $1 back then, right? So you buy me probably like 2 scoops. And I remember sitting there in this fucking ice cream shop, bro, and we're eating fucking ice cream. And thinking to myself, like, what the fuck am I doing, bro? I'm sitting here with another grown-ass man with ice cream I can't even afford talking about my feelings, bro. Right, and that isn't the only time, bro. We parked on Baseline and Waterman,
yeah.
Right, and we sat in your car and we probably talked about the same thing, bro. Right, about anger, about dealing with life, and like all those moments, bro, that you invested in me, is a big part of the reason why I am the way I am today, bro. Right, there's few people, bro, that just really fucking touched my life in early recovery, and I think that early recovery is like the most important part of recovery, because that's where we build our foundation. That's where we build our new behaviors, bro. Like, if I didn't go to so many meetings, if I didn't call so many people, if I didn't do all that stuff in early recovery, bro, like, my recovery wouldn't be what it is today. And over the years, just changed. I don't go to as many meetings. I don't have, commitments. I don't have, like, all that stuff, right? Because my life is busy now, right? But that doesn't mean I don't go to no meetings. I still have my meetings that I go to on a weekly basis. I still talk to a fucking another recovering addict on a daily basis, at least 3-4 people on a daily basis, right? But like, you instilled that for me, bro. You were like that beacon of hope for me, bro. And I thought to myself, that this dude could go to prison and he could have all this stuff going on, bro, and then stay clean no matter fucking what. Not perfectly, but stay clean, right? It was a big fucking deal for me, Frankie. So like, I want to like thank you from the bottom of my heart, bro. Like, thank you for loving, like, the unlovable. Thank you for being there for me no matter what. Always making me feel welcome. Always making me feel a part of. Like, there is not one thing that I do in my life that I can't come to you and talk to you about and let you know, like, how I'm feeling or how it affected me, or like I feel like hurting, or I feel like going outside my relationship, or I feel like doing all that stuff, bro. And you don't co-sign and you don't lead me in the wrong direction. And when I do act out, and when I have acted out in fucking bad behaviors, you also don't judge me. You still love me. You tell me it's gonna be all right. Don't trip. It's not that big of a deal, right? And being able to walk me through that, man. And I told you this before, but like, if because Willie's been my sponsor for a long time, bro, and like, if it ever got to a point where he couldn't be my sponsor anymore, right? There's only one man that I could think of that I respect and love enough to be able to be open as I am with Willie. It would be you, bro. So like, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast, and yeah, I appreciate you, bro, a lot.
Real quick, I want to touch on it's because we're informed now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of being informed. We're not misinformed. And that was something that was given to me by our predecessors, so I'm able to pass it on to you guys. That's the only way that I've learned to stay clean and to practice that daily reprieve. I mean, that in itself creates gratitude for me. Not because I'm special, it's because I've learned the process. Yeah. We're informed now. We're no longer misinformed. I can start misinforming myself, though. But if I stay in the process, I'm able to pass it on. Right. And it was passed on to me. That's one of the most beautifulest things that the program has to offer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Anything, Mike?
Frankie, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I do have one question for you. If there's one thing that you could tell somebody that's been through the things that you've been through, that might be just getting clean, that might still be loaded right now, what would you tell them?
I understand. We've walked in the same shoes as countless others, and give yourself a break, give yourself a chance, find a 12-step program, and maybe get involved. You know what We hear it over and over. Give yourself a year, and if you don't like it, and understand that still using addicts have the same consideration and respect as any other member. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I just give yourself a chance. That's all I got.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Frankie.
Yep, thank you, Frankie. And everybody listening, please like, share, subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Send this podcast to somebody who might need to hear it, a loved one, a friend, all that good stuff. And we'll see you guys next week.
Often here, wipe my tears. Only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes. Looking at the skylight, thinking of my life like looking for the right state of mind to get my time right. I just hope my time's right. Lost up in the limelight, but you'll never know unless you walked up in my shoes.
As someone who struggled with addiction in the past, how does it feel to be able to give hope to others who are still struggling now?
You know, it's such an honor to be able to hear other people's experiences of life, to see how when faced with the very thing that was sent to destroy you, kill you, and take you out forever didn't, but rather you have been given a second chance to give hope and be a light for those who are still in the dark. So don't be afraid to share your message to the world. You never know whose life you might be saving.